Story 1. I never thought I'd find myself in the middle of one of those crazy, entitled people stories you read about online. But here we are. Let me set the scene for you. I've been working at Ultimate Fitness for about 3 years now. It's not the most glamorous job, but it pays the bills while I finish my physical therapy degree. Most days at the front desk are pretty routine: scan membership cards, answer questions about classes, occasionally deal with someone who forgot their water bottle. But some days make me question humanity. It all started on a busy Tuesday evening. The after-work crowd was filtering in, and I was checking people in at a steady pace. Nothing unusual. I had the evening shift that day because my morning class got canceled, which was actually a blessing since it gave me extra time to study for my upcoming anatomy exam. I was already mentally exhausted from cramming, but the shift was going smoothly enough. Until she walked in. I recognized her immediately, not because she was a regular, but because of the incident 6 months ago when she had thrown a fit about the increased membership fees. My coworker had dealt with her then, but it had been dramatic enough that everyone on staff knew about it. She had stormed out declaring she'd never come back. Yet here she was, striding through the front doors like she owned the place, designer gym bags swinging from her shoulder and phone glued to her ear. She was dressed in what looked like brand new workout clothes, the tags possibly removed just minutes before arriving. Me. Good evening, ma'am. Can I see your membership card? She barely acknowledged me, just fished a card out of her purse with one hand while continuing her phone conversation about someone named Jennifer who had apparently committed some unforgivable social faux pas at a dinner party. I took the card and swiped it through our scanner. The system beeped and flashed red. I tried again, same result. I checked the screen and saw the issue immediately. Me? I'm sorry, ma'am, but it looks like your membership expired 6 months ago. Would you like to renew it today? She kept talking on her phone for another 20 seconds before seemingly noticing I was still holding her card. She made an exaggerated eye roll and told the person on the phone to hold on. Karen, what's the problem? Just scan it already. Me, I did scan it, but your membership expired 6 months ago. I'd be happy to help you set up a new membership if you'd like. She stared at me like I had just spoken in an alien language. Karen, that's impossible. I'm a member here. Me, you were a member, but your membership expired 6 months ago. According to our records, you didn't renew it. Karen, well, obviously your computer is wrong. I pay good money to come here. Me, our system shows your last payment was 6 months ago, and there have been no charges since then. If you'd like to check your bank statements. Karen, I don't have time for this nonsense. I'm a valued customer, and I'm here to work out. I tried to maintain my professional composure, but I could feel my patience wearing thin. My head was already pounding from hours of studying earlier. Me, I understand, but you'll need an active membership to use the facilities. I can get you set up right now. It only takes a few minutes. Karen, do you know who I am? I've been coming here for years. This was objectively false. According to her file, she had only joined 8 months ago and had quit after just 2 months. Me, I'd be happy to get you set up with a new membership, but I cannot let you in without an active one. It's company policy. Karen, this is ridiculous. I want to speak to your manager. Unfortunately for her, I was the shift manager that evening. I explained this to her as calmly as possible. Me, I'm actually the manager on duty right now. I'd be happy to help you renew your membership, or you could speak with the general manager tomorrow if you prefer. Karen, this is unacceptable. You're just a kid. You clearly don't know what you're doing. For context, I'm 27 years old. Hardly a kid, but I didn't bother correcting her. Me, I understand you're frustrated, but I cannot let you in without an active membership. I'd be happy to. She cut me off by snatching her card back from my hand. Karen, look, I'm already late for my workout. Just let me in this once, and I'll sort out the membership tomorrow. Me, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. It's against our policy, and it wouldn't be fair to our paying members. She stared at me in disbelief, as if the concept of rules applying to her was completely foreign. Karen, do you have any idea how much money I've spent here? I'm a valued customer. I was about to repeat the offer to renew her membership when she suddenly darted to the side and slipped past the turnstile while I was helping another member. Ma'am, you can't go in there without an active membership. She ignored me completely, continuing past the locker rooms and toward the main workout area. I immediately called my coworker who was monitoring the floor. Hey, we have a situation. A woman just went past the front desk without scanning in. She has an expired membership and refused to renew. Could you intercept her? My coworker confirmed and headed toward the main floor. Meanwhile, I continued checking in the line of increasingly impatient members who had witnessed the whole scene. About 5 minutes later, my coworker returned, looking flustered. Coworker, she won't leave. She's on the elliptical and claims she's going to complete her workout no matter what. She said if we touch her or her things, she'll sue us for assault. I felt a headache forming. This was escalating beyond what I could handle alone. I called our district manager for guidance, who instructed me to give her one final warning before calling the police for trespassing. I approached her on the elliptical, where she was barely moving, just scrolling through her phone. Ma'am, I need to inform you that you are currently trespassing on private property. If you don't leave immediately, we will have no choice but to contact the authorities. Karen, go ahead and call them. I pay for this membership, and I have every right to be here. Your membership expired 6 months ago. You haven't made a payment since then. You are not a current member of this gym. Karen, that's your mistake, not mine. I'm not going anywhere. She turned up the volume on her phone, pointedly ignoring me. Other gym members were starting to stare. Some were whispering to each other, others were openly watching the spectacle unfold. I felt my face flush with embarrassment, but I had a job to do. I returned to the front desk and called the police, explaining the situation as calmly as I could. They assured me an officer would be there shortly. While waiting, Karen apparently decided to move on to the weights section, where she proceeded to hog multiple machines without actually using them properly. She was just sitting on equipment while texting, preventing actual members from using them. Several members complained to me, and I assured them the situation was being handled. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived. I explained the situation to them and provided documentation showing her membership had indeed expired 6 months ago. They nodded and headed toward the weight area. From my position at the front desk, I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see it unfold. Karen initially seemed smug, probably assuming the police would take her side. Then her expression changed to disbelief, then outrage. She started gesturing wildly, pointing at me, then at her phone, then back at the officers. One officer appeared to be speaking very calmly while the other stood slightly back, observing the situation. After about 5 minutes of heated discussion, Karen stormed off to the locker room, accompanied by a female staff member we had called in to ensure she didn't cause trouble there. When she emerged, she was escorted to the front desk by the officers. Her face was flushed with anger, and she was clutching her designer gym bag like it might protect her from the consequences of her actions. Officer, ma'am, we've explained that you need to leave the premises. The gym staff has confirmed your membership expired months ago, and you've been asked multiple times to either renew or leave. Karen, this is discrimination. I'm being singled out because of my age. I want all of your badge numbers. Officer, this has nothing to do with discrimination. You're trespassing on private property after being asked to leave. We're giving you the opportunity to leave voluntarily rather than being arrested for trespassing. Karen, I'll have all your jobs for this. Do you know who my husband is? No one knew who her husband was, and frankly, no one cared. Officer, ma'am, your options are to leave now or be arrested. Please make your choice. For a moment, I thought she might actually choose arrest, but apparently, even she had some limits to her entitlement. She huffed dramatically, then pointed a finger directly at my face. Karen, I will be calling corporate about this. You haven't heard the last from me. Me, that's your right, ma'am. Here's our corporate number. I handed her a business card with the corporate office information. She snatched it from my hand, nearly giving me a paper cut in the process. Karen, I've been a loyal customer for years, and this is how you treat me. I'll make sure everyone knows about this. Officer, ma'am, please exit the building now. With one final glare that I'm sure she thought would turn me to stone, she stormed out, the automatic doors barely opening in time to avoid a collision with her righteous indignation. The officers stayed a few more minutes to take statements and ensure she didn't return immediately. They advised us to call again if she came back and suggested we document the incident thoroughly for our records. After they left, the gym slowly returned to normal. Members resumed their workouts, though the incident remained the topic of conversation throughout the evening. My coworkers and I debriefed, documenting everything while it was still fresh in our minds. The next day, I found out she had indeed called corporate, spinning an elaborate tale about how she had been mistreated and discriminated against. Fortunately, our thorough documentation and security footage told the real story. Not only did corporate back our decision, but they also implemented a policy. She was permanently banned from all Ultimate Fitness locations in the region. The district manager personally called to thank me for handling the situation professionally. She mentioned that several members had actually contacted corporate to compliment how staff had managed the difficult situation. 2 weeks later, one of my coworkers spotted her trying to enter another Ultimate Fitness location across town. She was promptly turned away. Apparently, being banned from all locations really did mean all locations. The whole experience taught me something valuable. No matter how much someone yells, rules still apply to them. And sometimes, justice is served with a side of permanent gym ban. I still work at Ultimate Fitness, still checking cards at the front desk while finishing my degree. And every now and then, when a member complains about something minor like a temporary shortage of towels or a broken water fountain, I smile to myself and think, if only you knew what real gym drama looks like. Story 2. Let me give you some background on myself. I work as a senior consultant for a tech firm that specializes in enterprise software solutions. My job requires me to travel at least twice a month to meet with clients across the country. After 5 years of this routine, I've accumulated enough frequent flyer miles and status that I usually get upgraded to first class. It's not glamorous, just a slightly bigger seat and a drink before takeoff, but when you spend as much time in the air as I do, those little comforts make a difference. The company I work for has a travel policy that allows us to book first class for flights over 3 hours, which is nice considering how exhausting these trips can be. I had just wrapped up a particularly stressful week-long project in Seattle, helping a client migrate their entire system to our new platform. The implementation had been riddled with unexpected issues, and I had worked 16-hour days to make sure everything was functioning properly before I left. I was mentally drained and looking forward to those few precious hours of comfort before diving back into the mountain of work waiting at the office. That particular Thursday, I arrived at the airport 2 hours early, as I always do. I like to get through security with plenty of time to spare, grab a coffee, and maybe catch up on some emails before boarding. The flight was scheduled for 2:30 p.m., and I was one of the first to board with the priority boarding group. Seat 3, a window seat, first class, left side of the plane. I stowed my carry-on in the overhead bin, settled into my seat, and immediately reclined slightly, feeling the tension in my shoulders begin to ease. I had my noise-canceling headphones ready and a new audiobook downloaded on my phone. For the first time all week, I felt like I could breathe. The rest of the first-class cabin filled up gradually. The seat next to mine was taken by a quiet businessman who nodded politely before turning his attention to his laptop. Perfect seatmate minded his own business. I was just about to put my headphones on when I noticed her. A middle-aged woman with highlighted blonde hair cut in what I can only describe as the quintessential "I want to speak to the manager" style. She had been walking up the aisle, checking seat numbers, and suddenly stopped right next to my row. She looked at her boarding pass, then at my seat number, then at me, with an expression of incredulity, as if I had personally offended her by occupying my assigned seat. She cleared her throat loudly. "Woman, excuse me, but I think there's been some mistake." I pulled out one of my earbuds and looked up at her. "Me, I'm sorry?" "Woman, this is supposed to be my seat." I double-checked my boarding pass out of habit, even though I knew I was in the right seat. "Me, 3A? No, this is definitely my seat." She thrust her boarding pass in front of my face. I could clearly see it read 24F, an economy seat toward the back of the plane. "Me, ma'am, your seat is 24F. That's in economy class, further back." Her face contorted into a grimace that I can only describe as practiced indignation. "Woman, I know what my boarding pass says, but I need to be in first class." "Me, I'm sorry, but I think you'll have to speak to the gate agent if there's an issue with your seat assignment." She crossed her arms and stared down at me. "Woman, no, you don't understand. I need to be in first class. I'm a mother." I blinked at her, genuinely confused. "Me, okay. But are your children traveling with you today?" She scoffed, as if my question was absurd. "Woman, no, they're at home with their father. But that's not the point. I deserve a break. Do you know how hard it is being a mother of 3? By this point, other passengers were starting to board, and were having to squeeze past her to get down the aisle. She didn't budge an inch. "Me, I'm sure it's very challenging, but I paid for this seat." "Woman, well, my husband only bought me an economy ticket, and I've never flown first class before. It's just one flight. You're a man traveling alone, you can sit in economy. It's common decency." I was genuinely baffled by her logic. "Me, I'm sorry, but no. This is my seat. I'm not moving." Her face turned red. "Woman, don't be selfish. I deserve this more than you. What do you do that's so important anyway?" I didn't feel the need to justify my seat to her, but I was starting to get irritated. "Me, ma'am, I've been working 16-hour days all week. I'm exhausted, and I need to prepare for another meeting as soon as I land. I've paid for this seat, and I'm staying in it." "Woman, well, I'm not moving until you get out of my seat." She stood there, blocking the aisle, arms crossed, looking down at me with such entitlement that I couldn't believe this was actually happening. Passengers were backing up behind her, and the flight attendant finally noticed the commotion. The flight attendant approached with the practiced smile of someone who deals with difficult people daily. "Flight attendant, is there a problem here?" Before I could respond, the woman turned to the flight attendant with a suddenly sweet voice. "Woman, yes, there is. I need to sit in first class because I'm a mother, and this man is refusing to give up his seat for me. It's just common courtesy." The flight attendant's smile didn't waver, but I could see the slight tightening around her eyes. "Flight attendant, ma'am, can I see your boarding pass?" The woman handed it over triumphantly, as if expecting the flight attendant to immediately take her side. The flight attendant glanced at it. "Flight attendant, I see you're assigned to seat 24F. Let me help you find that." "Woman, no, you don't understand. I need to be in first class. I deserve a break." "Flight attendant, I'm sorry, but if you want to fly first class, you need to purchase a first-class ticket. This gentleman has paid for this seat, and it's his." "Woman, but he should give it to me. I'm a mother. It's the right thing to do." At this point, I just put my earbuds back in, hoping to distance myself from the situation. But I could still hear their exchange. "Flight attendant, ma'am, please proceed to your assigned seat. You're delaying the boarding process." "Woman, no, this is ridiculous. I demand to speak to the captain." The flight attendant's smile was definitely strained now. "Flight attendant, the captain is preparing for our flight. Now, please proceed to your assigned seat, or we'll need to involve airport security." I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. I was wrong. The woman suddenly dropped her carry-on bag, and, to my absolute shock, plunked herself down directly onto my lap. I immediately yanked my earbuds out. Me, what the hell are you doing? Woman, if you won't give up the seat, we'll share it. The entire first-class cabin went silent, all eyes on the absurd scene unfolding in seat 3A. I was completely frozen in disbelief. This stranger, this entitled woman, was literally sitting on me, crushing both my legs and any faith I had left in humanity. The flight attendant's professional composure finally cracked. Flight attendant, ma'am, get up immediately. This is completely inappropriate and against airline regulations. Woman, not until he agrees to switch with me. The flight attendant reached for the phone. Flight attendant, I'm calling security. Woman, go ahead. I'll tell them how unreasonable you all are being. The businessman next to me, who had been silently watching this unfold, finally spoke up. Businessman, lady, you've lost your mind. She turned to glare at him. Woman, mind your own business. Businessman, this is my business when you're causing a scene and delaying my flight. Meanwhile, I was still trapped beneath her, trying unsuccessfully to push her off without being too forceful. Me, please get off me. This is assault. Woman, it is not assault to sit down. Don't be dramatic. Within minutes, 2 airport security officers appeared at the front of the plane. The flight attendant pointed them directly to my row, where the woman was still stubbornly perched on my lap. Security officer, ma'am, you need to get up and come with us right now. Woman, I'm not going anywhere. I have a right to be on this flight. Security officer, not if you're assaulting another passenger and refusing to comply with crew instructions. You don't. Woman, I am not assaulting anyone. Tell them. She looked at me expectantly, as if I would suddenly take her side. Me, she sat on me without my permission and refuses to move. That's assault in my book. Her face contorted with rage. Woman, you ungrateful, selfish man. I hope you're happy with yourself. The security officers moved in closer. Security officer, ma'am, this is your last warning. Get up and come with us peacefully, or we will remove you forcibly, and you will face additional charges. Finally, she seemed to realize she wasn't going to win this battle. She stood up abruptly, causing me to wince as blood rushed back into my numb legs. Woman, fine. But this is discrimination against mothers. I'm going to sue this airline. As the security officers escorted her off the plane, she continued to shout about calling her lawyer and how she was going to make us all sorry. The entire plane erupted into applause as she disappeared from view. The flight attendant came back to check on me. Flight attendant, sir, I am so sorry about that. Are you okay? Me, I'm fine, just a bit shaken up, and my legs are numb. Flight attendant, I've never seen anything quite like that in 15 years of flying. Can I get you a drink? On the house, of course. I gratefully accepted the scotch she brought me, and the rest of the flight was blissfully uneventful. I thought that would be the end of the story, but when I turned my phone back on after landing, I had texts from 3 different friends asking if I was the guy from the plane. Apparently, several passengers had recorded the incident, and it had already made its way to social media and local news. The airline released a statement the next day confirming that the woman had been banned from flying with them in the future. They also sent me a generous voucher and an apology letter. The cherry on top, my company's travel department upgraded my status to allow first-class booking on all future flights, regardless of duration, citing hazard pay in the approval email. So now, whenever I settle into my first-class seat, I always check over my shoulder, half expecting to see another entitled mother demanding my seat, and I make sure my phone is fully charged just in case I need to add to my unexpected collection of viral videos. Story 3. I've been a firefighter for almost 15 years now. Started when I was 23, fresh out of training and eager to make a difference. The job has its ups and downs, long shifts, dangerous situations, and the constant pressure of knowing people's lives depend on you. But I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. There's something about being able to help people on their worst days that makes all the hard stuff worth it. Our station runs on a 48 on, 72 off schedule, which means I work 2 full days straight, then get 3 days off. It's intense, but it gives me decent chunks of free time to recover and take care of life stuff. Today was day 1 of my off time, and I had a list of errands to run. First up, grocery shopping. I'd been putting it off for too long. My fridge was practically empty, except for some questionable leftovers and a carton of milk that was definitely past its prime. I threw on a casual t-shirt that had our fire department logo on it, not because I wanted to advertise my job, but because it was clean and comfortable. The local supermarket was unusually busy for a Tuesday morning. I grabbed a cart and started making my way through the aisles, checking items off my mental list. Protein, vegetables, some snacks for my next shift to share with the crew, the usual stuff. I was in the produce section, trying to decide between 2 different bunches of bananas, when I felt someone hovering behind me. I didn't think much of it at first. Grocery stores get crowded, people need to get past each other. No big deal. I put the better-looking bananas in my cart and moved on to the apples. That's when I noticed something strange. A woman probably in her 50s with an expensive-looking haircut and designer sunglasses perched on top of her head was staring at my cart intensely. Before I could say anything, she reached over and plucked the bananas right out of my cart. Me, excuse me? Those are mine. The woman looked at me like I'd said something ridiculous. Woman, I need these more than you do. They're the last good bunch. I blinked, not sure if this was some kind of joke. Me, I just put those in my cart. There are plenty of other bananas over there. I pointed to the display, which still had at least a dozen bunches left. Woman, not like these ones. These are perfectly ripe. Put them back. She actually tried to put my bananas back on the display. I reached out and took them from her hand, placing them back in my cart. Me, look, I don't know what's going on here, but these are in my cart because I'm buying them. Please don't touch my groceries again. Her face twisted into an expression of pure entitlement. She looked at my shirt, noticing the fire department logo for the first time. Woman, oh, I see. You're a firefighter. Well, you should know that my tax dollars pay your salary. So technically, I'm your boss. I had to fight the urge to roll my eyes. This wasn't the first time I'd heard that line. Me, that's not how it works, ma'am. I'm off duty right now, just trying to do my shopping like everyone else. Woman, well, I deserve those bananas more than you do. I work hard for my money, and people like me fund people like you. At this point, other shoppers were starting to stare. I tried to be polite but firm. Me, I'm going to continue my shopping now. Have a nice day. I started to push my cart away, hoping that would be the end of it. No such luck. The woman followed me, still fuming. As I stopped to pick up some bell peppers, she actually reached into my cart again and grabbed a package of chicken breasts I'd picked up earlier. Woman, I'll take these too. The meat section was almost out. This was getting ridiculous. Me, ma'am, please stop taking items from my cart. That's not appropriate behavior. Woman, don't you talk to me about appropriate behavior. I pay taxes. I deserve respect. Her voice was getting louder, attracting even more attention. An older gentleman shopping nearby gave me a sympathetic look. Me, respect goes both ways. Please put my groceries back and leave me alone. Woman, how dare you? Do you know who I am? My husband is friends with the chief of your department. I highly doubted that, but even if it were true, it wouldn't matter. Me, that has nothing to do with you taking things out of my shopping cart. Please back off. That's when things escalated. This woman, this complete stranger, actually rammed her shopping cart into mine. Hard. The impact pushed my cart into my legs, and I felt a sharp pain as the metal edge connected with my shin. Woman, you should be grateful for people like me. We're the reason you have a job at all. She was practically shrieking now, her face red with anger. I was about to respond when a store employee rushed over. Employee, what's going on here? Is everything okay? The woman immediately switched tactics, her voice becoming sugary sweet. Woman. Oh, thank goodness you're here. This man was being very rude to me. I was just trying to get some groceries, and he wouldn't let me pass. The blatant lie left me momentarily speechless. The employee looked confused, glancing between us. Me. That's not what happened. This woman has been taking items out of my cart and claiming she deserves them more than I do. She just rammed her cart into mine deliberately. The woman gasped dramatically. Woman. That's a lie. How dare you accuse me of such a thing? I want to speak to the manager immediately. The employee, looking increasingly uncomfortable, nodded. Employee? I'll call the manager and security. While we waited, the woman continued her tirade, now addressing the growing crowd of onlookers. Woman, can you believe this? Public servants thinking they're better than the public they serve. This is why our taxes are so high to fund the attitude problem of people like him. I stayed quiet, not wanting to engage any further. A few minutes later, a man in a shirt and tie approached, accompanied by someone wearing a security uniform. Manager, what seems to be the problem here? The woman launched into her version of events, talking over anyone who tried to interrupt. According to her, I had been hoarding all the good produce, deliberately taking items she needed, and then threatening her when she politely asked if she could have some. When she finally ran out of breath, the manager turned to me. Manager, sir, what's your side of this? I explained what had actually happened, how she'd been taking items from my cart and became aggressive when I asked her to stop. Before the manager could respond, another shopper stepped forward. Shopper. I saw the whole thing. This lady is lying. She was the one taking stuff from his cart, and she definitely rammed her cart into him. I was about to say something myself when your employee showed up. A couple of other customers nodded in agreement. The woman looked outraged. Woman. They're all lying. This is ridiculous. I'm a valued customer here. I spend thousands of dollars in this store every year. The manager's expression hardened. Manager. Ma'am, we have security cameras in this store. We can easily check the footage to see what actually happened. The woman faltered for a moment but quickly recovered. Woman. Fine, check your cameras, and while you're at it, check this man's attitude. He's a public servant who clearly doesn't understand who pays his salary. I remained quiet, keeping my expression neutral despite the throbbing pain in my shin where her cart had hit me. The security guard spoke into his radio, presumably asking someone to review the footage. After a brief exchange, he nodded to the manager. Security. Video confirms the gentleman's account. The woman was removing items from his cart and did ram him with her cart. The manager turned to the woman, his professional demeanor firmly in place. Manager. Ma'am, we don't tolerate that kind of behavior in our store. I'm going to have to ask you to leave, and I'm afraid you're banned from shopping here in the future. The woman's jaw dropped. Woman. Banned? Are you insane? Do you know how much money I spend here? I'll sue this entire store. I'll have your job. Manager. That's your right, ma'am, but right now I need you to leave the premises. If you refuse, we'll have to call the police. Woman. Oh, I'll call the police myself. This man assaulted me with his cart, and now you're all conspiring against me. To everyone's astonishment, she pulled out her phone and actually dialed 911. We all stood there, listening to her report an emergency where she was being threatened and assaulted by a firefighter and store employees. The security guard sighed heavily. Security, you do realize making false reports to emergency services is a crime, right? The woman ignored him, continuing her dramatic account to the 911 operator. When she finally hung up, she looked triumphant. Woman. The police are on their way. We'll see who gets banned when they get here. What she didn't know, but I did, was that in our town, fire rescue often responds to calls along with police, especially during busy periods, and given that it was Tuesday morning, I had a pretty good idea who would be showing up. Sure enough, about 5 minutes later, I heard the familiar sound of a fire engine pulling up outside. The woman looked confused. Woman, why are firefighters coming? I called for police. Me. They often respond together. Standard procedure. The look of realization on her face when my crew walked in the same guise I'd worked with just yesterday was almost worth all the hassle. The captain spotted me immediately. Captain, hey, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be on your days off? Me. I am. Just doing some grocery shopping when things got interesting. I nodded toward the woman, who had suddenly gone very quiet. Captain, what happened? Before I could answer, 2 police officers walked in behind my crew. The manager quickly filled them in on what had happened, including the security footage confirmation. The officers listened attentively, then turned to me. Officer, sir, would you like to press charges? Ramming someone with a shopping cart could constitute assault. The woman's face went pale. Woman, assault? That's ridiculous. It was just a little bump. He's not even hurt. I pulled up my pant leg to reveal the already forming bruise on my shin. Officer, ma'am, please stop talking. You have the right to remain silent. As the officer continued reading her rights, my crew members tried unsuccessfully to hide their smirks. The captain patted me on the shoulder. Captain, only you could get assaulted while grocery shopping on your day off. The police escorted the woman out, her protests growing fainter as they led her to their patrol car. My crew had to get back to the station, false alarm or not. They were still on duty, but not before giving me plenty of good-natured ribbing about the whole situation. The manager approached me after everyone else had left. Manager, I'm very sorry about what happened today. On behalf of the store, I'd like to offer you a discount on your groceries. I appreciated the gesture, but didn't feel right taking advantage. Me. That's not necessary. You handled the situation well. Manager. Please, we insist. And maybe an ice pack for that shin. I smiled and accepted both the discount and the ice pack. As I finished my shopping in blessed peace, I couldn't help but wonder what story that woman would tell her friends about her day. Something told me it wouldn't be quite the same version we'd all experienced. When I finally made it home with my groceries, including those perfectly ripe bananas, I called the station to give them the full story. They were already telling it to the next shift, each retelling getting more elaborate. By next week, I'd probably be fighting off a cart-wielding maniac with nothing but a bunch of bananas and my firefighter reflexes. The bruise on my shin eventually faded, but the story became a station legend. And every time I go grocery shopping now, I find myself instinctively guarding my cart, especially around entitled-looking women with designer sunglasses.